So a little bit about myself. I came to kind of political awareness in college in advocates for self-government and libertarian thought. I was in the Green Party for a very long time. I still have friends in the Green Party and respect that work, but I recently backed off from that. I've studied socialism because of a character that we all love very much, Catherine Smith, who was important to LIPC and Peace Smiths, which I work with. And I'm currently a blank, that's what you call it in New York State when you're independent, and I'm working for, as a staff writer for Independent Political Report. I'm copying my favorite comedian, David Letterman, but without the humor, and doing top 10 reasons to encourage, support, and of course allow national parties other than the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Number one, if the rule is only two parties, what if someone wants to go back to the Whigs and the Republicans? Who gets to pick which two parties? Number two, and this is actually a ringer question from Richard Winger of Ballot Access News. If America can have more than one religion, why can't we tolerate more than one or two parties? And how can you deny someone, either by law or social pressure, the right to assemble with like minds in a way that they think will be effective? Number three, if the only two choices are Democrats and Republicans, what happens when those two parties agree and find themselves behind closed doors? So I wanted to put that out to some people here because I know we have people that really care about politics there. Think about the characters you know. If you're in Suffolk, think about the chairman of the Suffolk Democrats and the Republicans. Or in Nassau, I know Jay Jacobs is with the Democrats and the Republican guy over there. Or think nationally. Think about if those two people were really the ones in charge of the whole lay of the land, because really they, as the leaders of their parties, get to make a lot of the choices. In some races, they sign the Wilson-Paculas and things. Would you trust those two people to care anything about yourself or justice if the two of them could get in the room and decide and didn't have any third party, third voice, or alternative? Okay, number four. If the only choice in 2012 is Democrat Barack Obama or a Republican, how would there be any political movement between now and 2012 to make our country move to the left? Who would provide pressure for Obama to promote peace and nonviolence? Right now, he's wants to surge in Afghanistan, or is surging. He wants to keep the troops in places. He hasn't done peace. So who is this voice that's going to force him to do that? I guess that maybe it could be the Democrats in the primary, but we've seen over and over that that doesn't happen. And if progressive Democrats think they're going to get the chance to lobby or say their cause for peace, look at the last few Democratic conventions, where they would not even let people wear a peace ribbon onto the floor of the convention, where they had free speech zones with barbed wire. So where is this glorious place that Democrats are going to win their party in the primary? Okay. Number 4A, which is related, and I have a visual for this. When I was in college, we were studying classic, romantic, how the big issues go back and forth in philosophy and art and people's thinking. And so it seemed like a pendulum, but they assured us that it was a spiral, and that every time it swung back to romantic, they learned a little bit from the classical period before, and it was going to be better, not just the same old, same old. If you only have the Democrats and the Republicans, and there's no other pressure or choice or outside group, and when you have Barack Obama for 4 years, and then the next election it's either him or a Republican, the same thing, back and forth, where are you going to move the spiral up? Where is anyone going to learn or move to the left if all it does is go back and forth? You need the new energy of different parties. You need the potential and the threat for the Democrats that there has to be a way to move to the left. Number 5. This is another one for you to visualize, someone better than your local political chairman. If your sister, your friend, or your political hero, or a coworker wants to run for president under the banner of a third party of their choice, something that's important to them, would it be your duty to stop them because maybe they'd be interfering with the regular candidates or the ones who might win or they might get in the way or spoil? Would it be your choice to stop them? How would you feel about other people who criticized your friend or coworker because they wanted to run? How would you feel about unfair laws and petitioning rules that blocked them? Number 6, even better. What if you wanted to run for president? What if you decided that you had the answer, or that at least you could put a platform out that you wanted people to see? Do you think that people would have the right to discourage you from doing it, attack you for trying to run, or block you legally for trying to run? Number 7. Now, when you do a top 10, it gets a little long, so David Letterman goes back and he says it again. So this is my punchline effect. Top 10 reasons to encourage, support, and of course, allow national parties other than the Democratic Party and the Republican Party to exist. It takes courage for little people to stand up with other little people against those in power. So on the back, I have a list of third parties, and this is from another great website, politics1.com. And now I forgot how many. There's over 30 different parties. But these are all people that have a history. They want to assemble together. They have organizations. They have meetings. They have a culture. And these are all third parties that they want their chance to run for office. And I think that people should support that and stand with them. Number 8, third parties are a way of creating smaller organizations where new people, people of diversity, and people without huge amounts of wealth or family connections to politics have a chance to practice leadership and give input into a national platform. Now, I know that this is an important forum, so the answer might be some people here, but how many people do you know that are delegates to the Democratic Presidential Convention? How many people, and what kind of people, and what level are they at, that are Democratic National Committee people? Because when you have only the two big guys going back and forth, it's hard to overcome the patriarchy, the history, the entrenched families, the entrenched power. Do you think that you could ever rise up and be a committee person or a delegate in your party, especially at the national level? Within a few years of me being in the Green Party, I was able to be a presidential delegate, and later I was able to be a national delegate. I really don't think that I would have had that opportunity in the Democratic Party. Number 9, so we're getting near the end. National third parties work in other countries. Ballot access expert Richard Winger notes, in other countries such as Canada and England, they have completely neutral election laws, a field of national third parties, and a very healthy political process and discourse, ends quote. Their laws do not discriminate in favor of any parties or against any parties. Ballot access in those two countries is exactly the same for every party, big or little, old or new. And that's something to respect. And as he said, Canada and England are some of the democracies close to us and what we consider like us. And their system is able to work and get thoughts out. Number 10, national third parties have in the past worked and been good for our country. Third parties have motivated, supported, and lent power to some of the greatest social justice movements in America. Some examples: the Liberty Party, the Anti-Slavery Party, the Women's Right to Vote Party, the Labor Party, the Populist Party, the Farmer Party. What if everyone at the time blocked those parties or mocked those parties? And on that note, this is historically the great ideas that have animated social justice and driven it to some sort of success in our country have all come from third parties. And aren't we glad that ballot access barriers were much lower in the 19th century than they are today and much less obstructive? Because that allowed the Liberty Party, the Anti-Slavery Party, the Women's Right to Vote Party, the Labor Party, the Populist Party, the Farmer Party to get on the ballot. And aren't we glad that there were some voters in the 19th century who didn't say, well, we're going to vote for the least worst on the issue of slavery between the Whig Party and the Democratic Party, who instead voted for the small party that led the fight electorally, speaking out against slavery? Aren't we glad there were some voters who didn't try to figure out who was the least worst on the women's right to vote between the Democrats and the Republicans, and supported the women's right to vote through the Women's Suffrage Party. Well, if we like that then, we should like it in the 21st century as well. And that quote is by the person who probably gets put down as a third-party person the most, Ralph Nader. So.